More fiddly bits, and there may not be a video for 2 or 3 weeks because I have family coming in front of town and I'm going to entertain my family. This is our CNC. It is a next wave automation Piranha 120. They no longer make this model anymore. It's been folded into their Shark line, and now it's the Shark 120, and it costs about the same price. Now we've got a little extra, some extra features on this. I've got a touch plate, which is not standard, and we'll demonstrate the touch plate later. The pendant came with it. All the controls are right here. You'll see that when I turn it on. This dust boot was extra, and it just holds up here with magnets. And this, in conjunction with the mullet, we'll talk about the mullet later, really does clean up the dust very nicely. So the difference between this and the new Shark is this is phenolic, or some very rigid black plastic from here, and holds everything here. The Shark model now is more metal up here, metal back here, and has I think a 3/8 inch metal bracket that comes over and down like this in an L shape or a Z shape that holds the router. This is the DeWalt 611 trim router, and this is the only place it lives. It doesn't go anywhere else. I've set it to the height that I want within the bed table. There's another video, couple of videos on my channel, and I'll leave links in the description of me tramming this. Tramming means it gets level here to here and here to here. Now, this table is 12 by 30. The working size of the table is 12 by 24. So we got 12 by 24 wasteboard on here, and this is where our working surface. Everything we've done so far has never had to be on anything bigger than this. Now, the first cut I'm going to make, and I'll get the piece of wood over here in a second, is going to be with a bullnose bit. And let me show you, let me get the piece of wood and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I should have had this over here, I know. This is my final test piece. Get closer to the camera. This is my final test piece. This is going to be made out of a 3/8 piece of wood. This is a 1/2 inch piece of wood, so it didn't go all the way through. So the bullnose makes this cut here and this cut here first. So it's just a bullnose cut into here, 1/8 of an inch. Here and here. Once the bullnose is done, we come back with a 1/4 inch a bit, and this is an upcut bit, and go, this is, I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but the edge of this bit rides on the center of that bullnose at the bottom. So basically it'll cut out here and here, so it cuts this completely out, but in the final piece it'll cut it completely out. But I've got tabs in the system, and describe those later, that will hold this all together until such time as the part is cut out. But I said it's going to be 3/8 of an inch, and I did this in a 1/2 inch piece so that I could double check my cutting depths. Every time you make a cut, design a piece, and you need to go through the workpiece to get the part out, it says, oh, danger, danger, Will Robinson. You're going to cut through your workpiece. Yeah, I know that. But that's why the tabs, I don't know if you can see them in there. That's a tab, and that holds it all together while it's being cut. So let's go and look at, in my office, which is a horrible mess. Bear with me, and I'm not going to clean it up. It's just what it is and where I work. So let's go in the office. Let me look at the computer, and I'll put some pictures up on the screen of how this design work happens. As promised, this is my editing station in my office. 2-screen, obviously, everybody has 2 screens. I couldn't do what I wanted to do with the screens on camera or whatever. Anyway, so over here I have AutoCAD 2000. Over here I have VCarve, which is the software for creating tool paths for the CNC. Interesting thing about this AutoCAD is I have AutoCAD 2000. The last operating system that AutoCAD 2000 will operate on is Windows XP. I have Windows 10 Pro. So I had to run, I'm running VirtualBox is my VM machine. I'm running the XP in a virtual machine on my computer so I can actually use AutoCAD 2000. So with that being said, let's go on to some of this stuff. So the picture we're looking at now is actually the cross section of the quatrefoil. It so you can see that it's 1/2 by 3/8 with the 1/8 inch radius, and it comes down halfway through the workpiece, and it's 1/4 inch across the top, and that's essentially what I wanted for the cross section of the quatrefoil. Here's the AutoCAD drawing of the quatrefoil, and it's these are the tool paths. The two lines in the middle or between the outside lines is the outside edge of the top of the quatrefoil. The other two lines represent the outside edge of it and the inside edge, but they're also toolpath lines. And you can see the diameters of the circles. I got 4 circles that I joined with lines, with straight lines to give you this shape. It makes more sense if you saw the drawing in progress, but we're not going to do that right now. And this is my V-carve application used for sending G-code to the CNC machine to cut everything out. And this is the 8 by 8 inch piece of 3/8 inch pine that I'm going to be making the quatrefoils out of. And the first thing to do is the bullnose cuts. And let's run the bullnose cuts so you can see how that works. This is a rather quick rendering of the cutting. There it is. There's the tool paths. And now it runs the cutter. That was 2 passes. Now the next thing to do is to run the straight 1/4 inch straight bit, where the center of the straight bit is right on the center of that line, the outside line you see, the outer edge of the bullnose. That cuts the whole thing off at the right place. And since we're going all the way through the workpiece with tabs, it gives us the finished part that we want. So let's go ahead and run the flat bit now. This is a bit slower rendering, but you can see it's cutting right on the center of that line. And you see the tabs holding the workpiece in place as it finishes the cut. Boom. And there it is, ready to cut out of the workpiece and put it on the door after a little sanding, of course. Now that you have a general idea of how this all works, not in depth, just a quick overview, let's go back in the shop now and cut out the quatrefoils. Every CNC needs a spoil board. And why do you need a spoil board? Well, you want, a lot of times, as you can see from this one here, you're going to cut through your workpiece so you have an open slot or open hole or whatever. So my spoil board is 3/4 of an inch MDF, 1 foot by 2 feet, screwed in to the work table with 1/4 20s from the bottom. And this is so you don't put it on top of your aluminum work table. You don't want to be cutting through your aluminum work table like here. Into those in the spoil board, I have on 1 3/4 inch centers a grid of 1/4 inch holes with 1/4 20 inserts in from the bottom on each one, and that allows me to mount things on here. And in this case, I have these 3 buttons that are down here. And they are for squaring up the workpiece, and they just look like this. It's a 1/4 20 knob, plastic knob. My workpiece, as I showed in the drawing, is 8 inches by 8 inches square, and I've indexed it to the center of the workpiece here. Now, in the software, it defaults to a corner, the lower left-hand corner, but you can pick any corner or the center of the workpiece, which I do. So then I can slide it in here, and it's pretty much squared up with the spoil board. And I've got these clamps that I made out of oak like this, very similar, and it's got a nut under here for one of these buttons to fit in there, and then a 1/4 20 screw for screwing it into the spoil board, and it's a 5/32 socket to hold it in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp it down in 2 places. That's really all you need, nice and tight, here and here, and that's out of the path of the tool paths. So that there is now solid. It's not going to move. I can now cut out the very first one. But we have to align everything to the center here, zero it, and then we'll use a touch plate to set the depth, the correct depth. Now that I have the workpiece in place, now the dust collection boot is off because I need to see what's going on. This is a dust collector boot. It works really well, keeping the workplace clean. And along with that mullet we'll talk about later, that is an amazing dust collection device. So I use one of these pointy carving bits to index it on the center of my workpiece where the cross lines are. And I don't need to tighten this down. I'm just going to get it finger tight. There we go. It holds it in place. And now what I want to do is move this way, come down, all by hand. Oop. There we go. I'm going to get that axis lined up. Yep, that axis is lined up. And now I want to get that axis lined up. Now I am on that center, right where those two lines come together. Now the next step is to take this cutter out, put the correct cutter in, and do the rest of the alignment. So let's do that. The first cutter I'm going to use is the bullnose, a little 1/4-inch bullnose cutter. That's the first one I'm going to use. That didn't look focused. I'm going to put my cutter into the router. Now this is a precision chuck. There's a link in the description to a video about using these and to the company I got them from. And they're very precise. I got one on my router table as well, router. So I'll tighten this up. And now, since I've got it centered, I'm going to come back down and just touch the workpiece with just drag, so I can barely drag a piece of paper. There we go. So I'm going to zero it there. Yes. Now I've zeroed it at that location. Now, to give the computer a better idea of where it's at for doing this kind of work, I have a touch plate. This is a touch plate. I'm going to raise this up, collect here, set the touch plate, and go to plate and OK. See if it's there. It is. Now it'll come down until it touches a plate, then it'll return back up again a little bit. That's now fixed. If I move this up and down anywhere I want, I just hit my zero and it comes right back to here. So that's ready to go. So, goes in this little pocket right here. Click OK. Now for my next trick, I will have to get the dust collector on here. Well, I have to raise this up. It doesn't matter because it knows where it needs to be. So come up. Now I would run this with a camera on here so you could see it, but there's plenty of videos showing that. And the other side of that is keeping the dust from going all over the shop. So let's go set this up and run it. Now hoping this shows up on camera with the buttons I push. I go to USB, which is in place. I have a tap file, which is basically the G code. It goes for the bullnose. And I go to next. I'm not going to use that virtual zero function. Hit start, and everything's on. It should be on. Yep. Hit start, and it's going to start the dust collector and the router and start running the job. It's going to be noisy. I'll start the job. We'll come back when it's done. Okay. Looks to be about done. So let's get out of this, go back to the main menu, and go up, oops, and away, and then near, And let's pull it out of there. I can see places where it didn't go all the way through, but that's to be expected. So I only set the cutter to go, I think, about 10 thousandths below the thickness of the workpiece. I should actually go about 20, I think. So yeah, I've got to do some cutting and cleaning. Not a big deal, but let's take a look. So there it is. You can see that it didn't go all the way through in some places. I think you can see that, and it's very thin. That's not a problem. I can just knock it out of here. But then I got to do some sanding on the inside and the outside, and I'll show you the finished product in a minute after I take care of all of that. But let me knock this out of here, and then we'll have number one done and ready to go in the door. And there we have it. 2 quatrefoils, 1 for each door. Like I said at the beginning of this video, there may not be another one for a couple of weeks because I have maybe 3 weeks. I have family coming in to visit. I'm entertaining my family, and you know, the amount of time it takes to make one of these videos, do the work and make the video, is going to put me off schedule for a while. But anyway, the quatrefoil will fit on the door just like that. 1 for each door. A little bit of sanding going on here, but that'll be glued in place and then stained like the rest of it. So, until next time, which may be 2 or 3 weeks from now, make great things out of wood, try a CNC, maybe buy one.